Hey everybody, this is Sherry. I thought I would talk to you about pens today. When you collect a whole bunch of fountain pens, like over 300, people like to ask you what's your favorite pen, and it's an impossible question to answer, really. There are favorite pens. I've got a couple of favorites by Edison pens, and partly it's because they're great pens, and partly because I think Brian and Andrea Gray are wonderful people, and so anything I get from Brian is special to me. I was once a very avid Bexley collector, and I've got a pretty nice collection of some proofs and extremely limited, like there are only 2 in the world, editions of the Submariner Grand. So I'm pretty fond of those pens. One of them in particular is a material that I really love, and the nib was done to perfection by Richard Binder. Then there's some of my vintage pens that were Grail pens for me for a long time, or were pens that I got at a pen show, or from somebody like Al Maiman, who was somebody I bought a lot of vintage pens from, who passed away a few years ago. And so the connections, not just the pens themselves, but the connections I have to the pens and the memories I have associated with them are very important to me. Then sometimes, I'm just, there are particular materials that I just think are absolutely gorgeous. So what I'm going to do is tell you what's my favorite pen today. My favorite pen today, my favorite pen really this month, is this one. The Visconti Homo Sapiens Florentine Hills. Boy, I've had this pen for a year or so, and I just have not fallen out of love with it yet. It's a wonderful size. I love how it feels in my hand. It's the Homo Sapien, the Visconti Homo Sapiens line is one that is marked by this particular shape and also by these 2 rings here. And then you also see the Homo sapiens in a lot of different materials. Some of them having some transparency like this. Some of them in this formation, this lava stuff. And they continue to produce new models in the Homo sapiens line. So I expect to see even some different materials coming forward in the Homo sapiens line as well. But this pen is akin to a blue-gray version called the London Fog. And the London Fog is a somewhat more popular pen, I think. But I think this is gorgeous with these greens and browns, and now I'm going to cough. Allergy season. With these greens and browns. It's a power filler, double reservoir power filler, so you get lots and lots of ink in there. In fact, when I do the writing sample, I'm not going to be able to tell you what color the ink is because I've had it filled for so dang long and still haven't emptied it. I can't really remember what I put in it. The nib is a fine, it's a 23 karat palladium Dream Touch nib. Now, a lot of people have talked about difficulties with Visconti nibs right out of the box, hard starting, that sort of thing. And the truth is, I have had a little bit of experience with that, but I kind of have more tolerance for that than other people. I do agree that a pen in this price range, and this retail, you can get this for around $600 if you watch carefully, but I think it lists at $900 or $900 or so. Pens in this price range ought to be perfect out of the box. There should not have to be any messing around with it. But if there's, as long as it gets to writing halfway down the T-stroke, I'm not too worked up about problems with the nib. This one's perfect. Absolutely perfect. It's smooth. It's wet. I really like wet writers. And I love the Dream Touch nibs when they're working. Again, a lot of people who've been following Visconti prefer the older 14 karat nibs and think that these palladium nibs are not as good as those. I've had a 14 karat, I've had an 18 karat. I love the Dream Touch nibs, just the right amount of spring for me. So I love the pen mostly for the writing experience, but I also just love how it feels in my hand, and I think it's gorgeous. I just can't get over how gorgeous it is. I like seeing the ink slosh around in there. This has the Visconti hook latch capping system. The first pen I got with this system, I was not so keen on, because I thought this is going to be a problem. I'm going to break it. I'm going to chip it off. It's really a pretty solid system. I still am somewhat careful, however, carrying this in a pocket, because really, you look how easy it is to take it off. You just push it down, spring a little bit, and it comes off. I have had occasion to have the cap come off in my pocket. Okay, some people would start this video over because of the cough. Once I start coughing in the spring, I'm going to be coughing until July. So I could start the video over, but I'm going to be coughing again. Sterling silver appointments on the ring here where it says Homo sapiens. The clip is not sterling silver. It's the standard spring-loaded Visconti clip, which I love in this arc shape. Some people... Oh my God! Callie, we dropped the pen. Pick up the pen, Cal. Oh my God. Okay, pen's fine. Pen's fine, no problem. Some people do care for this clip. They think it's not very secure. I've had absolutely no problem with the clip being secure. I think it's terrific. And they've also, some have noticed some flakes in the enameling. No issues. This is absolutely perfect. If you look closely, and I don't know if my little, it's not picking it up very well, but there's also swirls on the cap that have some chatoyance. Again, these materials are varied. So you can get a Florentine Hills or a Homo sapiens that doesn't have much pattern. I was lucky in that I got one that's really got a lot of color and a lot of patterning. So I love it. I love carrying it. I love writing with it. I love looking at it. I love watching the ink slosh around. But I like Visconti's a lot. That's it. I'm going to show you a little writing sample, and then I'll be out of here. So I would love to tell you what ink I have in the Homo sapiens Florentine Hills, but the truth is I filled it so long ago, and it holds so much ink that I cannot remember. It's green, and I think it might be Conway Stewart green, but I'm not 100% sure. Anyway, the pen has that little hook latch that some some Viscontis have. That's so much fun, and it really holds the pen quite solidly. I haven't heard other people say this, however. I have had the pen come apart when I've had a pen clipped in my pocket. It only happened once, but it was an inky mess, so I'd keep an eye on that. So this is a fine nib. Okay, I'm trying to write around a tripod. This is my first attempt at this writing sample thing. I don't know what angle to come in at. Well, I'll keep trying. Visconti. Homo sapiens. Florentine Hills. You can see there is some spring to the nib, which can allow a little line variation, but even without the line variation, it's just pleasurable to write with these springy nibs. I've never had any trouble with this nib. I'm writing backward, upside down now. I've never had any trouble with this nib. Sometimes Visconti's out of the box need some tuning, which is ridiculous for pens at this price. It's an extremely wet writer, which I love, and I like just writing nonsense with it. Great pen.